This podcast is made possible in part through a partnership with TrueFire. TrueFire is the most comprehensive guitar learning experience on the internet, with over 51,000 guitar lessons from the best educators in the world. It makes TrueFire the #1 most trusted music education resource for guitar players. We as guitar players sometimes get fixated on the gear that we play, and we neglect the skill level that we play. And many of us have a hard time finding instructors locally. TrueFire bridges that gap. You can find my affiliate link below to get 40% off with my code 40watt of your first purchase through TrueFire. Learn, practice, play, TrueFire. This podcast is made possible by the support of many wonderful people over on Patreon. If you would like to support this show and help make sure it keeps going, you can go over to patreon.com/40wattpodcast, where for as little as $3 a month, you can help make sure this show keeps happening. Thank you for all of your support. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of 40 Watt Podcast. I am your host, Philip Carter. And this week, I'm super excited, but before we get into the episode, before we get things rolling and the train gets out of control and we get in conversation and I can't back it up, I'm going to get a few housekeeping things out of the way. First of all, thank you so much to all of my Patreon supporters. All of you are wonderful. Y'all make this show keep happening. You've heard this already spiel. If you're not a Patreon supporter, you've heard the spiel at the beginning of this episode, or maybe you fast forwarded through it. I totally understand. Well, you're getting it again right now. Go over to patreon.com/40wattpodcast. You can support this podcast for as little as $3 a month, or you can be like Blake and be a $50 a month supporter, and you can get lessons, guitar, bass, music theory. That's what Blake and I are doing. We're going through jazz standards and analyzing them and learning the theory behind them. It's really been a really fun time. I've really been excited about it. Teaching again has been really exciting for me. But besides that, remember, you can go over to, there's a bunch of links down below. Click follow, click subscribe, click bell icon, click, I don't know, stalking button down there somewhere where you can get all the notifications and updates when stuff goes live. And then you don't miss any episodes of this podcast. That's all I've got. I'm going to be real fast and get done with this because today I'm super excited. I'm talking to Sarah Rudy from the band Hello June. So hi, Sarah, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm very good. Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a day. It's been a long day for me. My day started way earlier than usual today, so I'm on way more caffeine than usual.
That's
just
good.
Oh, it is. My heart isn't really appreciating it anymore. But,
right, probably not.
But I'm getting through it. But I'm super excited about this episode. I've been listening to your band all day in the times I've had, because I've been wanting to get ready for this episode, because we've actually been interacting on Instagram. We've been talking on Instagram for a little while, and I had listened to your music a little while back, and I was like, oh, I got to get Sarah on this podcast, because like you've got this really cool sound and vibe to your music, and it's probably a little nostalgia, and we'll get into that a little bit. But then we got talking, and then I hadn't listened for a while, and I have goldfish brain, and so I needed to be like, okay, I got to listen again, and so, but let's do the preliminary for the people who have no idea who you are, and shame on them. Tell us a little about you. Tell us a little about Hello June. How'd you get into playing music? How'd you get into this whole crazy world of being a band and going on the road and playing music?
Well, I'm Sarah Rudy, and this band is an indie rock band that I lead. I play guitar. I sing. So for me, the guitar and the voice is kind of like one big voice. And then I have usually two guys that back me. I'm from West Virginia, which is a really cool state. If you haven't been there, you should visit. It's very nice. And I got started in music with my grandfather. He played guitar, and we would spend like hours just playing like hymns and Johnny Cash songs. So kind of grew up on older stuff. And I just continued to play guitar, and finally forced myself to sing because I'm an introvert, and it's a scary thing to do. But eventually forced myself to learn to do that, and here I am now.
So have you always, so you're based out of, I think I'm safe saying this because I think I saw it on your website. You're based out of Morgantown, West Virginia? You always been in Morgantown? Is that like where you grew up?
I grew up a little south of Morgantown in Bridgeport, West Virginia.
Okay.
and I lived in Baltimore for a while, and I lived in Philly for a while. And then I decided I wanted to come back to this state and live in the country and play drums at 2 a.m. if I want to.
Living the life.
Right.
That's the way to do it. I have genuinely chosen the last two places that my wife and I have lived based on how far away my neighbors are.
Yeah.
Like, can I play guitar at 1 a.m. and not get a noise complaint?
Exactly.
That's what I need in my life. So, because the reason I ask is because I know Morgantown is a university town. So, university towns typically have at least an okay music scene. Is there a pretty good music scene there in Morgantown?
Yeah, it's a good scene. It's become really diverse through the years. There's a bunch of indie rock bands now. And just where West Virginia is, everything is super diverse. Like, we've got country and folk and rap, and it's just, it's weird because the music scene is kind of separate from the university itself.
Oh, really?
But it is. Like, it's sort of, I mean, there is a little bit of overlap, but it's very separate. But yeah, Morgantown's a cool place, and it's a bunch of different worlds all coming together, which, 123 Pleasant Street is like a venue that's pretty big there. A lot of bigger bands have played. They just create a nice culture, and it's a good place.
That's always exciting. I love when there's a decent music scene where there's a lot of interesting live music, because I've talked about where I'm from in this podcast a lot, and my listeners are tired of hearing about it. But there's pretty much a music style in the town I grew up in. And don't get me wrong, I'm from like blues, like it's got a heritage in the blues, like where I'm from. It's really important. It's an important town in that musical lineage, but that's it. That's the music scene. I mean, there are some people that do some, I don't know, blues adjacent styles. So, and that's fine, but you're really kind of locked in. There's not really a lot of indie rock bands or I don't know. Clarksdale had a pretty good rap history back in the 90s. Nate Dogg was from Clarksdale in particular. He was part of that whole, I'm not going to pick a coast because I'm going to get this wrong, guys. I'm not really a hip hop guy, so somebody's going to get really mad at me. But there's a lot of stuff's come from that town, but we didn't have like that really, really diverse. Like, you had everything from folk to country. If there were country bands in my hometown, there were cover bands. There weren't a lot of people writing, original music.
Right.
So I love those cultures that get built up around university and that constant ebb and flow of new that's happening. Yeah,
it's interesting the way that places kind of pan out. I mean, because a college town is just going to feel much different than like where I actually live is Albright, West Virginia, and it's like kind of out in the country. And it's just interesting how that all flows out.
Yeah. Well, it's always good. I've always said I want to live close enough to a city to be able to get that, but not live in the city.
Right, exactly.
And I also live in a college town, but it's a smaller college town, so I get it. I'm down here in Starkville, Mississippi, which is where Mississippi State University is.
Okay.
So that's a whole thing. So you perform. So you said you got a couple of guys that back you up, but you perform as a duo. Am I correct? Like guitar and drums, or have you added? Because your website listed as a duo, and I definitely hear more instrumentation on the album. But of course, an album you can do a lot more than maybe you do live. So what's it look like when you play live?
So we generally play as a trio. The duo language, I probably shouldn't have said that when I did, because the reason it came up is because WIT has been around since day one, so we kind of pull other people in. My drummer, though, has been around, the whole time, so we kind of, I think that language was not exactly accurate at the time.
What, you mean journalists get something wrong? No way.
I know. I still honestly regret that language, though, because a lot of people do mix that up, and we're nothing like a duo. It's full band.
Well, that's good, because that actually makes it takes away like a question, a line of conversation I was going to have, but it definitely makes some things make more sense, because your arrangements in these songs are big.
Yeah.
These are really big arrangements. And I was going to grill you on how you do that as a duo. And I was like,
Yeah.
this has got to be the wildest like live stage show trying to get this to really feel this
Yeah.
big.
No, it's funny because we've actually tried to do it because we're like, that would be a lot easier, you know, but
More affordable on the road.
Yeah, totally. It is not fun. It feels, it feels like I have plates I'm carrying and it's bad.
Yeah,
I commend anyone. Yeah. Not for me.
Because that was a big deal. Because like, so listening to your record, for you guitar players who get mad at me when I talk way too long in this podcast without bringing up the instrument that it's focused around, I'm pretty sure we didn't talk about guitars at all in my last episode until like the last possible minute. It was an all songwriting episode because I'm really fascinated in songwriter process. So we're going to get into that a little bit here because you write all the songs in this band, and they're really, really great songs. And I'm not going to wax poetic. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke, but they're really great songs that I was just listening, in particular, Problems. I listened to that one like 3 times on repeat. What a great tune.
Thank you.
But the arrangements, because it went back when I was thinking it was a duo, but even with a trio, you know, you think big. A lot of people, especially now, think, fuzzy and distorted guitars and big, these big thick sounds, and that's not Hello June at all.
Right.
There's a lot of wash. There's a lot of modulation. There's a whole lot of modulation in here, and I really, really love that. So talk about a little bit when you're writing a song. How much of it starts with the lyrics and the song, and how much of it is you found a cool sound that you really wanted to build something around?
For me, I think it's about, I'd say like half and half, because I feel like I consider myself just as much a guitar player as I do like a singer, which to be clear, like neither one is I'm that great at. So
I'm going to respectfully disagree, but we'll disagree.
But I do spend like a good amount of time just playing guitar, and so that stream of my mind works in a certain way. And then I, in the same way, will sit down and write a bunch of lyrics and then, just feel the need to like put something to it. So I'd say it's about half and half for me. But I love finding just sounds that you just want to sit in, though. That's one of my favorite things to kind of explore. And so, songs like Mars sound super drony, probably because I sat there and played that for 4 hours the first time. I like that, though. I like to sit in a feel, and I think that to me is always like the sign of, there could be a song in there if you can like sit in that feel for a while and distill it down later.
I think that there's something to be explored there, but I'm going to try to hold on to that thought, see if my ADHD brain lets me hold on to it. But I want to come back to this. Do you find that either of the approaches works? I don't want to say better because that's the wrong word, right? Or maybe comes easier. Do you find songs that you write where you had a sound or a chord progression or a melody tend to write themselves more easily, or do you find that the ones where the lyrics came first and then you had to put the music to it comes easier?
I think for me, it's a lot easier if I have a riff that I've written, because usually my guitar is like speaking a certain way, and then I just sort of know where to sit on that, I guess. Like the other way around, it for me is a lot harder. But the songs usually kind of come out, they end up looking a little different. So that is cool. It's kind of.
I'm glad you said that, because that's how it worked for me in my very bad songwriting, and I just needed someone else to relate to me a little bit there.
I relate to yeah, I do.
So talking about that whole holding a sound and really kind of sitting in it for a little bit, I feel like there's two really competing styles of songwriting, and they both sort of exist in yours, and they both exist in a lot of people's songwriting. A lot of people write in both styles, and that speaks to one of them. One, everybody's like, oh, the song should take you on a journey, and there's peaks and valleys, and it's that whole storytelling, hero's quest type stuff, right? Yeah. All that stuff we all learned in, if you took a creative writing course, they were like, you should write like this. Here's the Mad Lib that tells you how to write a short. I had a great. I'm actually disrespecting a little bit my creative writing teacher. She was incredible, but that's great. But I feel like there's something to be said for that song that sort of just lingers in a moment, and it's like it doesn't always have those peaks and valleys because it's the picture it's painting for you is different. Do you get that a little bit? Maybe it's like, oh, here's a snapshot rather than a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a song I was obsessed with recently, and I'm not going to be able to think about it right now, but I wish I could because it stayed so stagnant like the whole time. I listened to it probably like 7,000 times. I mean, I mean, like I swear to God, at least. It was a short song, to be fair. Yeah. But like I might not even be exaggerating about the 7,000. Like it's a lot. Because I loved staying in that moment. My brain wouldn't let me leave. So I'm with you there. I like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that kind of thing. 'Cause sometimes there's a few songs I've come across in the course of my life. And as my life gets longer, I keep coming across more songs. And I can't always recall them, but there's this thing where you have like, oh, there's this 3, 4, 5 minute song, but I really listen to it for this 30-second segment. Yeah. Like, this is my favorite part of the song. If this section were 3 minutes, I would still listen to it for this. Yeah. And I feel like that's that whole thing. It's like really pulls something out of you. Yeah.
An emotional connect or something. Like, it hits you in a spot that something else is good, but might not hit you in the spot.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I mentioned a little bit earlier about the nostalgia that I sort of feel because I'm a 90s kid. I'm not going to ask you if you are or not. I don't know. I'm not going to find out because that's rude. Oh, okay, good. I'm glad you volunteered it, but because I was going to ask because like there's so much like vibe of the music that I loved in the 90s. And I have I'm so bad at genre titles. I'm so bad. Don't ask me. I could not tell you the difference in so many genres. Yeah. I can hear a band though and be like, oh, it sounded a little bit like this, a little bit like that. Right. And, those kinds of things. There's so much vibe in this. So what are some of your influence? Because I hear a lot of them in there, and I just don't want to be wrong. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, what do you think? What's your first?
Oh, you're going to put me on a spot here. So I need to preface this. I need to let you know this about me while we're in this conversation. Yeah, this is where we're going to be real friends here. You know this now. Oh, we are. I am so bad at song titles, and I am so bad at remembering artists. Yeah. My favorite album of all time, I could probably name 3 songs off of it off the top of my head.
No, I relate. Okay, I do.
Because I could totally be like, I could just sing the first track in my head, then I'm going to immediately go to the second track. I'm going to immediately go to the third track because I listen to albums as a whole.
That's good. Yeah.
That's the way I prefer it. I was so happy when Adele made Spotify change their default play setting instead of shuffle. Now it just automatically defaults to playing down the album.
Wow. She did that?
Yeah, she got real mad. She got real mad about her last album.
Oh my God.
She was like, "Why are y'all shuffling my album? I put them in this order for a reason."
Right. I can see that.
Yeah, so they literally Spotify changed their default setting for Adele.
Wow.
So now when you hit play, it just goes down.
I can thank Adele each time.
She's fantastic. Exactly. Wow. So I'm big about listening to albums in order, and if and woe be unto someone whose album doesn't make sense in order. I'm like, I can't. It may as well have been shuffled.
Right, I know. That's part of it. That's a big part of it.
So all that to say, I'm probably not going to be able to guess. So I would just start naming 90s artists sort of in that like indie rock. I think I'm safe. I think I'm safe to assume there's some Liz Phair influence in there.
I would say a little, the littlest bit for sure.
There's a little bit of that. There. But you're a little more in that. I don't know. There was like that whole like. I could just start naming some of my favorite, especially women artists from the 90s. I was really into like Paula Cole, and I was really into, I was really, I had a phase, y'all. I was really into Tori Amos for a little while there. But like there's that, she's a complete badass, but there's that moodiness in their music that I sort of get there, especially Paula Cole. Paula Cole, she's a whole vibe. There's a whole attitude to Paula Cole.
Yeah, they're really, somebody gave me her album, the one where she's swinging on the branches.
Oh, yes.
With fire. There's, I don't know. Anyways.
No idea what it's called. Because I'm bad at this.
Also, I am too. But that album, I listened to that, and there was so much mystery in that at that time. I was like, I think I was maybe 11 or something. Mm-hmm. But I was just like, what am I hearing? And I traveled to different dimension to meet Paula Cole in my mind. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. So yes, there's so much of that like attitude, and it's like I've said it about some artists. They paint a landscape a little bit with their guitar work. So let's go down that path a little bit. Let's talk about your guitar style, because it's big. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
So when you're recording or when you're coming up with guitar ideas, how does that generally happen?
Well, I think for me, it's the guitar is like I said, it's like another voice. So I feel like if those notes aren't right, like I'm usually writing a melody as I'm playing. Mm-hmm. I really don't strum a whole lot, which is
okay.
On our album that we're about to put out, I've realized that I've done more strumming than I ever have. But there's a good bit of melody writing that comes out of my guitar, and therefore then my vocal kind of follows it. So I think my guitar style is built out of that, because I'm always like tying that vocal with the guitar. So I'm not writing parts that are way above it or something,
It's very sort of in that same range, and so it's sort of following each other a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Tends to be.
when you're coming up with these ideas, like, because this is the hardest thing for me. This is why I'm such a simpleton when it comes to like guitar sounds. I have like my 3 sounds that I like.
Me too.
I like a lot more. I should say, I have my 3 sounds I know how to use.
I relate.
Yeah. So do you sort of hear the sound? Because, and listeners, I'm going to challenge you, please, after we're done talking here, go listen to this album. It is, besides the nostalgia, if you're not an elder millennial like I am, geriatric millennial they call us. So respectful of your elder. But they it's the arrangement, the effects. Like, some people play guitar and there are effects, and some people, and I hope this doesn't sound condescending, because some people say it condescending. Some people play a pedal board, and I feel like your sounds really sort of do that. Like, it's more than just the part you're playing. It's the way you crafted the tone. Do you hear that in your head before you do, or do you just start experimenting?
A lot of times it's in my head already, and I can just kind of go for it. But then I love experimenting too. So it's, that's really fun to go down that route and just change something and all of a sudden wind up with a new song.
Oh, that's awesome.
I really like that. They're both fun roads to go down, though, because hearing a sound in your head and then chasing that sound until you find it is pretty satisfying. You can't get much more satisfying than that. Like, I'm shooting for that and I got it.
Yeah, because and then conversely, there's almost nothing as frustrating as hearing something in your head and having no idea how to get that.
Yeah. Yep. Totally agree.
Keeps you up late at night at 2 a.m. disturbing the not neighbors.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe the coyotes in the field over.
I probably have those.
I almost hit one the other night coming home. I'm like, well, there's that. Yeah. It was a whole moment. At first I was like, that's a really big cat. No,
Oh,
that's not a
wow.
cat. That's a coyote.
Oh my
It's
God.
just small coyote. But so let's talk about, okay, listeners, we're going to mark this day down. I listened to you. We're going to talk about gear for a second. So let's talk about the stuff you like using. Cause I tried to listen and figure out, I think I know I hear lots of reverb. There's lots of reverb in there.
Yeah.
I hear, vibrato maybe, or maybe it's actually, I don't know. Let's talk about your effects that you use. How do you craft these sounds?
So on that album, we used a deluxe reverb,
Mm-hmm.
stereo with a JC 44.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the super clean amps.
Yeah.
We used the chorus on that. So we had those in stereo. Right now, I'm using like a pretty simple rig. I really love the El Capistan. Like, oh,
It's so good.
I know.
It's so good.
I know. I just couldn't get a reverb. I know it's not a reverb, but I couldn't get a reverb on my board that I was like in love with, because I love the Cathedral, but it's sounding like really metallic through my rig right now, and I can't EQ that out. Don't know why. Sorry. Too geary. Maybe it would.
Never. It's
Okay,
never
good.
too geary.
Good. And the blue sky is too blue sky. Like, it's too sweet. I love the pedal, but so I threw that on my board thinking I just might need a delay. And I took all the reverb off. The El Capistan is kind of taking the place of that, and it's doing all this really beautiful stuff. Like, I'm loving it.
It's such a ridiculous. So I bought one. I think I bought one like, I don't know, right after they came out or not long after that. And this is like way before I got like really into gear. Like,
yeah.
I didn't have a lot of gear. I owned 2 guitars, an amp, and a small like 6 pedal board, right?
Oh, okay.
And that was it. That was all the gear I owned. And I bought, and at that point it was the most I'd ever spent on a pedal. Ever. It was as much as I'd spent on a few guitars over the years. You know what I mean?
I do.
So I love how now we're like, oh, $300. That's like the most expensive pedal ever. And now
I know.
it's so dumb. Gear World is so dumb.
It is.
But that delay was the delay that made me like delay pedals. I didn't like them.
I believe that. I do. Now, have you played the carbon copy after that?
I have.
Do you
actually,
like it?
I like the carbon copy a lot. I don't like it as much.
Okay.
Because I like tape delay, but I use it sort of like what you're talking about. I use it like a glorified reverb.
Yeah.
I just get that a little bit bigger sound, that lift that it gives, without ever getting in the way.
Right.
Like I can't do the whole edge thing where all the repeats are clear and distinct, and they're all a part of the part.
Yeah.
No. I just want like this pad behind me a little bit.
I know. That's how I've been using it, is really I have it behind me. I brought it in here so I could reference it. But yeah, I've been obsessed with that lately, because it was just, I just needed something that wasn't so pristine and so clean. Because I feel like as a 3-piece, like we've been playing it, I feel like I need kind of that reverby delayed sheath around me, but as a 3-piece, it's like really super important for my guitar tone, like my actual tone, like to be there, as opposed to like washing everything out. So I've got to kind of have that, reverby sheath around it or whatever. But like, so that makes me kind of use things in a particular way, and that El Capistan has just been on point for like allowing me to do that. Because
it's amazing this many years it's still so, I don't know, it's still so viable, even with like the gear world has exploded.
Yeah.
There's 11 billion guitar pedals out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that one that came out, I don't even remember when it came out, like what, 09? 10? I have no idea. I don't remember. But it's over 10 years ago.
Wow, okay. I did not realize that.
Yeah, it's been out for maybe I don't know. I'm not going to Google on this podcast, y'all. I do that too much. But it's got some age on it at this point.
Wow.
It still holds up.
Yeah.
I mean, it holds up enough that they released an updated version where they put the reverb knob on top of it instead of as a secondary function.
Man, okay. Yeah, that's badass. I've speaking of bad, I have a bad horse pedal that's a Klon, like a Klon type pedal.
Oh yeah.
It was like $35. Seriously, 35. Like,
that's awesome.
And it sounds great. I keep it on. Like, it's on all the time. Isn't that cool?
I tell this story all the time. Y'all, the Klon hype, I'm going to make people mad. But do not. Okay, I'm going to, like, at the highest end, pay, sure, you want to spend too much money on gear like I do. That's fine. I spend too much money on gear. Spend $300 at, that's what El Capistan's, a little more than that at this point. Spend $300 on a great Klon sounding overdrive. You overpaid, but don't spend what I think I saw a gold Klon on the gear page yesterday, so it's selling for like $4,800. You want to know what's worse? I saw that and was like, oh, that's pretty cheap for a Klon. Oh my God, what is wrong with me?
Oh boy. That
so
hurts.
I've told this story on the podcast, but I'll tell it to you because you've not heard it. So I had one of the JHS Klon clones.
Mm-hmm.
And I had it for a few years. I got it in a guitar trade. Literally, I got it as part of like a guy wanted a Strat that I had, and he traded me that, a power supply, is that when I got the H9? He traded me like an H9 core, one of the Eventide effect. Like there was like 4 or 5 things in this trade to get this like $600 Strat, right?
Yeah.
Or like $700 Strat. This is also, 5-6 years ago. So I had that, and I had it for a while, and I played it. It was fine. It was an overdrive. I like overdrive pedals. And then I started getting into the gear world, and then JHS started their YouTube channel, and then Josh did an episode where he compared his Klon clone to a Klon. And he did that thing where he switches back and forth, and you can't hear the difference, just like he did with the Bad Monkey recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, no, he just did that thing to his own clone. And so I went on Reverb. I was like, what are these going for now? There's not one on Reverb. I have one. Do I love this pedal? Yep. Do I love it enough not to sell it right now? Nope. I listed it for $1,000 and it sold the next day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's dumb. It is so dumb. You want to know what I kept? That sounded just as good? Oh, this is going to be so bad. A $40 Wish.com Klon. That's what I kept. Because I was like, I've got this pedal. It sounds just as good for me, for the stuff I needed to do.
Did it sound just as good?
It did. It had a couple of other quirks, which you're going to get, the quality control is less on something like that. Some of the components, outside of tolerance, those kinds of things. You're getting some quirks. Actually, the weirdest quirk was that it was louder.
Oh.
I could not turn the volume up on it very high before it was just like melting face loud.
Wow.
And so
that could be a good thing though, if you wanted it to be that.
Absolutely. I've definitely been more mad about pedals that aren't loud enough.
Right.
So
that's me too.
People spend, and I'm yelling at myself, people spend too much money on a pedal for, oh, well, this person used it or that person used it. It's like, look, y'all, a Klon's a Klon. Some do it a little better, some do it a little worse. Don't be spending. You don't need the status symbol.
Yeah.
Which I think isn't that the point Josh is trying to make in his videos? I don't know how much you watch the JHS show, but
I follow it. Yeah. I really like him actually. He seems really cool. Yeah, man, I think a lot of people jump on the internet and they want the internet to tell them what like a sound is going to do, but it's so hard. Like so hard to read something and know what it's going to sound like. It's also hard to watch a video because, you know, no one plays guitar like you do. So it's like, well, I don't know how I'll sound. I wish there was just a magic thing where we could all just, you know, a spaceship flies to us, drops us off our pedals, and then you try it out and see what you like. I wish that could happen because I hate going into like guitar stores and like I even used to work in one, so I feel a little more comfortable maybe than I would if I hadn't, you know. But like, man, nobody wants to go in there and feel like the weirdo who's just being loud when you're just trying to talk or shop or whatever. Like,
that's it. It's hard because
it is.
I think of myself as an okay guitar player. Like I think I'm average to maybe a little better than average. I only believe that after I've heard a lot more guitar players over my life. Maybe I'm not good, but I'm not as bad as I thought I was. You know what I mean? That kind of feeling. But like, I don't want to turn up in a guitar store and be loud and like annoy everybody. And so therefore I'm not going to hear how this sounds any better in here than I'm going to hear it on YouTube.
Yes, I know. It's very frustrating. And it's, you know, you're problem solving a sound. Like for me, right now, I can't find a fuzz that I love. I have the JHS one on there. It's working very well, but it's like, I'm not in love with it. When I hit it on, I'm not like, oh, that's right. It's just not hitting a spot. So, but I've gone through like 3 and I can't. Would I just keep buying them and reselling them? That's what I do. But I'm like, my God, that gets expensive. But you really do get your money back on reverb. Like it's, you know, like this is a reverb commercial now. But like, I don't feel like I lose much money, really. It just kind of cycles. But it is a problem you're trying to solve when you have a sound in your head and you're like, well, I need to find it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, even if you... Yeah, you're going to take the fees, but even if you sell it at exactly what you bought it for, you lose a few bucks, maybe, you know, maybe 10, maybe 20 bucks. You got to try something out and learn whether you like it or not.
That's what I've sort of determined has been working for me. It lets me get to where I'm trying to go build wise, and otherwise I just hold on to things because I feel guilty. I'm like, oh, I have to hold on to it, you know? It's not a great feeling. You don't need to follow that.
No, it's not. It's not healthy either. And and I have stuff behind me. We're gonna ignore this shelf back here behind me. I have some stuff that I'm like, I don't really use that, but I also can't really sell it. And then this podcast has been bad because I've become friends with people who make gear, and then I'm like, oh well, that's, you know, I bought that from so and so that, you know, that, like I've had on the podcast. I'm like, it's dumb. It's a dumb way to live, but. But let's talk about, because this is a fun game for me, and so over on our Discord, so there's a Discord server for this podcast, and listener, if you are interested in Discord, if that's a thing you do, you can hop over there, join in. We chat a whole bunch. It's mostly a lot of us trying to help each other find the gear that they're looking for. So one of my favorite things in this world is actually helping people find things. So let's play matchmaker for you and a fuzz pedal. Okay. What are you looking for in a fuzz? What are you trying to get that you're not getting?
So I need something that is fairly tame. Okay. But I need a little bit of character as well, though. Just like maybe when you lean into it, a little bit of character. Most of all, it's tame. I like to like turn the volume up really high and just use a little bit of fuzz. That's how I generally dial it.
Okay. So I'm trying to think of a fuzz that does what I'm thinking, but I think what might really do it for you, I don't have an exact fuzz in my head, but there's a style. Now that's a whole other thing. Like there's fuzz face, tone bender, muff. There's another one I'm not thinking of right now. Rat distortion, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I bet you need something with a clean blend on it, so that like you can blend in your unaffected signal into it, so that you're not just getting that all Velcro and no guitar tone.
Right. Yes, that's exactly true. That is real.
So that may be our search. I may, who knows? It may be the thing that keeps me up tonight. And I'll message you on Instagram and be like, "This is it. This is the fuzz."
And then I'll be on Reverb trying it out.
That's what we do. There's a whole channel called Gear Pushers over on the Discord, where that's all we do is we push each other into gear. But yeah, I think that's what you need is something that something with a clean blend. I should probably ask Joe Branton over at the Guitar Nerds. He's all about clean blends on pedals.
Oh, I would love to hear. I've tried some different ones. I just can't quite lock into something.
What have you tried so far?
Well, I have a sun face.
That's my favorite fuzz. That's my favorite.
Me too, but so sadly, this one lacks a light.
Oh,
and it gets really confusing because, like I said,
because you're running it so light.
Yes.
Oh no, I could totally see that.
Right, and then I'm like, well, shit, is it on? You know, so I have to not do that. But that's a great pedal. Love it.
Yes.
So, that's done well for me. There was one Zvex pedal that I always used, but it was a little wild, which I love. Don't get me wrong, but for like what I'm looking for here is more like of the tame sort.
Was it the Fuzz Factory? That's I'll be honest, listeners. That's the only Zvex fuzz I know off the top of my head. I have to look the others up, so that's why I asked that one.
This might have actually been a distortion pedal, but the way I used it was like on max, and it made it really fuzzy. So there was maybe a Mastodon or Tron.
Oh yeah, I know the one you're talking about. I've never played one, but I know what you're talking about.
It's great. It's great. It's just, again, it's like not hitting the spot for what I'm looking for. It's a great pedal though. And then I also try. Right now, I'm using the JHS, just like it's like just a normal fuzz.
Oh yeah, they're like the white. What is he called? The 3 Series. That's it.
Yes.
The 3 Series fuzz.
And it's really good. Like it's on there. That's what I've sort of chosen as like my, the one I'm riding with at the moment. But I'm holding out.
Yeah, you're gonna find something. We're gonna hunt something down for you. That's gonna be what happens. So
that's right.
So listeners, toss some things in the comment section if you're on YouTube watching this video.
Please do.
Toss some comments down there. What you think would work. I still think we're looking at something with a clean blend, or if you got really crazy. Oh, what was it? Who is it made the try parallel mixer. Is that Electro Harmonics? So there's a pedal that they made. I only know about this pedal because the Guitar Nerds talked about it incessantly for like 6 months. I've never played one, but I think it's not actually an effect on its own. It's like a loop that you put effects into, and so you can mix them in parallel. So that would be a way of getting a clean blend with any of your fuzz pedals that you wanted.
Wow. So, okay, that's neat. I've never seen that. Okay, wow.
I haven't tried one though. So, but that sounds like it might do that as well. And then you could literally pick any fuzz pedal that you like.
That would be great.
Yeah,
I need to look into that. Electro Harmonics.
I think so. Okay. Yeah, I may look it up. I'll send you a link. I'll try to remember to look it up. ADHD brain. It's the whole thing. Right. So guitar wise though, what are you playing for guitar?
I have an Airline Supro. Eastwood makes those.
Yeah.
I replaced the pickups with some. Have you heard of McNelly pickups?
I have.
Yeah, so I replaced those, and they're like clean as a whistle sometimes, and my bridge pickup gets super, super dirty and gritty, and so like the mix of those two I really, really enjoy. I'm also playing a Reverend. I think it's the Nighthawk. It's brand new to me. Well, It's like 6 months old. So,
I got you.
but it feels a lot like my Super actually. That's why.
I like Reverend guitars. I think they have some really, really cool designs in a
Yeah.
world full of Fender and Gibson copies.
Yeah. If the neck just felt immediately good to me. I drove up to Baltimore to my buddy Ryan Fowler has a store up there, and I was like, I need to try all of your Reverend guitars because I think I'm gonna like them. And he pulled like 7 out, and I sat there and I was like, well, all of these necks feel amazing. Like yeah. I don't usually shop for guitars, I guess, but I was so impressed with these necks. And then I just sort of had to narrow it down, which was really hard. But I left with the, I think it's called the Nighthawk.
I've had one Reverend and played a bunch more, and I must have had like a weird experience. Like the one I had, the neck, it was real weird. So it felt like the neck to the fretboard was like this weird, like 90-degree angle, like hard edges, and like they weren't rolled at all. And so I ultimately sold that guitar on, and I had tried another one that was like that, and I was like, well, maybe that's just a Reverend thing. Yeah. But then literally 2-3 weeks ago, I went into my local store to buy strings, and inevitably you end up buying something else. I think actually that day I did walk out with just strings. But they had a used Reverend on the wall, and so I picked that up and played that, and it didn't feel anything like my other Reverend that I had. It was rolled edges. It felt great. I really liked it. I had to put it back. I did not need another guitar. But as a testament to knowing it was a good guitar, I went back in a couple of days later because I needed more strings because I was doing a thing, and I was trying a different gauge on a guitar, so I needed to buy a couple of sets of strings. Yeah. And so I went to buy those, and it was already sold. Like it had gone. Sometimes stuff sits in that store because we're in a small town, right? So there's not a lot of. But no, that thing sold immediately, so I knew it was a good one. Yeah. So I think I just had bad experiences.
And yeah, who knows how they've changed through the years too. That could be a thing. But yeah, these all felt amazing. I'm very happy with mine. I'm going to put McNally pickups in it though.
I just discovered McNally within the last couple of years because there's a builder out of Georgia named Michael Hennett. He's actually originally from the area I live in now, and so occasionally he'll put a guitar up in the local store on consignment.
Oh, that's cool.
He'll just build one and put one over here, and he had one over here, and I bought it from him. So I did research on him, and he likes to put McNally or Porter pickups in a lot of his guitars, and so I had neither of those in the one I bought because I think he built the one I have to be a little less expensive than some of the ones he builds, and so. But yeah, I started looking into McNally pickups, and they. All the reviews and all the players I know that play them love them.
Yeah,
I've not played them yet.
I was not expecting to really be able to tell a huge difference, but the guy who was working on my guitars at the time was like, "No, you're gonna love these. You're gonna love these." And I was just thinking, like, "Okay, sure." But and now I'm just like, "Oh no, it was such a jump up from those were the original stocks in my Eastwood Supra, so those are obviously not like the greatest pickups in the world, but it was like I couldn't believe the cleans I was able to get. I was like, wow, this is amazing.
It boggles my mind. Like I have definitely changed pickups in a guitar before and gone, did I change the pickups?
Right.
Like but then there's sometimes, and that actually has made me a little jaded. I used to change pickups a lot more in guitars, and now I'm like, I don't really do it. But then I hear stories like that where you're like, no, these pickups, this is the truth. Right. These are the truth. You need to try these.
Right.
And so I'm like, maybe I could try those. I need to not. Pickups is a dangerous rabbit hole.
Oh, it really is. Yeah, it really is.
Because they can be really affordable in the grand scheme of things. And so you can constantly be like, oh, well, what if I put these in here? And before you know that, you've got a drawer full of humbuckers that you've gone through. And
that's true. I don't recommend it.
I love those Supros though. I really like that style of guitar. And they're different. I like different. Don't get me wrong. Listeners are yelling. Those usual listeners are yelling at the radio. No, you don't. You're a traditionalist. I am, but I also love funky. I love old harmonies and Ks and air lines and all that kind of cool stuff. So I'm a blues guy. I like I like a little grit to stuff. I like when stuff gets beat up too, but people get really mad at that when you're like, it's not authentic. I like beat up guitars, whether it's by 40 years of play or if just the guy at the shop beat it up before he sold it. Like, I just want it to look beat up.
Right. I know what you mean. I don't like the real pristine look.
No.
Speaking of, I do have a hole in my guitar now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because that pickup's just over a cavity. That not pickup, the...
Yeah, it cracked, except what's really bad is that those are pretty rare, and so, like, I'm gonna have somebody make the pick
guard for it.
Yeah,
that's the word I was trying to say, pick guard.
Yeah, the pick guard. So that's gonna be really annoying, but I need to do that because it's getting worse. I don't need that.
Yeah.
I need that to go down.
There's a lot of good pick guard places out there that can probably do it.
That's what I'm thinking too. It's just, I was hoping I could just be like, hurry, send me a pick guard, and that's not going to happen.
Those are such rad guitars, though. I don't know. I like, they're really popular in the blues world. A lot of guys are playing them.
Okay.
But a lot of slide players use them, and some of those other guitars like that. I just really think they're super rad.
There's a big resonance to those guitars. The Supros. I like that. I feel like I grew up playing an acoustic guitar, and so like guitars that don't have that like natural resonance sometimes just feel a little strange to me. But that guitar and it's heavy, and it just feels, when you're holding it, you're like it's substantial. So and honestly, the Reverend that I have feels really similar, weirdly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'll have it on and I'll like forget that because they're both black. They're both black and white. I'm like so boring. It's ridiculous. I actually meant when I went in there seeking a Reverend, my thought was get something where you can see the wood. That'll be cool. Every other guitar I tried that day had something where I would see the wood, and I got the black one.
You have a type. It's fine.
I do. I really do.
We all have a type, whether we realize it or not. It's just, you're just realizing it, even though you're like, I'm going to go get something different. That never works for me either, for what it's worth. Maybe not in guitars, but it's like, I don't know. It's like when you go, I always try to tell myself, like, my wife and I go out to eat, and like we go to these restaurants we love, and like I'm gonna try something different this time. And then like you're sitting there for a little bit, and you're like scouring the menu, and like, okay, I'm gonna order this. I don't, I'm gonna order whatever. It's different. Then the waiter comes up, and they get to you to take your order, and you say the same thing you always get. You're like, I was gonna get this thing, but it's like that you panicked, and you're like, what if I don't like it? I'm gonna get this. I know I like this.
No, I know. I have fear of missing out. If I'm like, well, what if it's not as good?
Right.
I've wasted it, right?
That's it.
It's hard. I thought about this a lot.
The struggle is real. It's a real thing.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm so terrified to have one bad meal experience to try something new.
Right.
Oh, it's awful. We are such creatures of habit.
Yeah, we are.
So as we're approaching the end of the episode, I have this question I've started asking at the end of episodes, and I've struggled on what it is that how I'm gonna call it. Like if I'm creating a segment. Apparently, segments are things that people always. Yeah, you got to have a segment. So, what do you? Let's see. I've had a couple things today that I was like, I'm going to call it this, or I'm going to call it that. And now neither of those are coming to my brain right now because, brain. But so what are you hunting for? Like, what are you looking for? What's like a piece of gear on your radar? I guess fuzz is one thing, but if there's something else, what are you really like looking for?
Well, I know what I'm really looking for.
Uh-huh.
And this is another problem to solve. I am right now using an AC-10.
Uh-huh.
There's a greenback speaker in it. So it breaks up a little easier.
Right.
Beautiful, but I would like more headroom. Like I was using an AC-30 before, which I do not want to carry around. It's larger than I am. So
it's a boat anchor. I've had two over the years, and
it's
my back
beautiful.
still hurts.
Right, I know. Yeah, no, I have to literally. I'm like, it's not good. So, anyways, and you would think like, oh, well, why don't you just get an AC-15? That seems. The thing is, though, they weigh almost as much as the AC-30.
They're so heavy.
Then I'm like, come on, guys. Like, really? Anyways, so I need something like in between, right?
Yeah.
I keep seeing the Magnatone stuff pop up from people that I, like, admire, and I'm like, should I try it? They seem a little pricey, but...
They are expensive, but I've heard really good things about them.
Me too.
And, I mean, Jason Isbell's playing them, so, I mean...
Oh, yeah.
He knows a thing or two about good amps.
Oh, God, yeah. He really does. Yeah, Adrienne Linker plays one, too, and her tone is... Do you know Adrienne Linker? Big
that may be your thing. Maybe you need to go look at Magnatones.
Yeah, I might need to.
Amps are my thing. Like I've had this conversation with multiple people that like I love pedals. Don't get me wrong. I have too many. I really need to weed it down, and I've been thinking about it. I like guitars. Again, too many. But like the thing that really gets me going is amplifiers. Like I love amps, and I've got some heavy ones too. Or there's a podcast called The Truth About Vintage Amps. They like to call big amps logging trucks. They're a lot of trouble. They're really big and cumbersome, but I love them. I love them. I can't get into. I was literally in a Facebook chat group today talking about this again. I genuinely wish. Like modelers made me excited to play guitar. Yeah. I wish they did because my life would be so much simpler. Yeah.
No, people keep telling me like I need to do that. And I'm like, okay, no, in theory, like I get what you're saying, but I can't. I just can't.
It's not exciting. It doesn't and people are like, oh, well, the audience can't tell. Well, the gear I play isn't for the audience. It's for me.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Like, how would you have any response? Like, maybe if there's real response, I just can't. I don't think.
I did it for a little while. I did the Helix thing, so it's not like I didn't even try it. You know, because I was playing theaters and I was playing like musicals, like shows, and I was in pit band and I did like show choir gigs and church gigs and stuff like that. And so that's kind of the realm of that kind of thing. And so I used it for those, and it's like, it worked. Mm-hmm. It didn't sound bad. I've never once told people that it doesn't sound good.
Right.
It just doesn't make me excited to play guitar.
Yeah, I think I'd feel that way. I do.
Yeah. So it's a thing. But you know what? We'll talk more about amps and digital solutions and other things over on the Patreon episode. But here at the end of this episode, let's take a moment, tell everybody where they can find you. And listeners, seriously, go check out and see. Yeah, look, we've already had this conversation about my memory. So please go check out Hello June. I was going to say the name of your last album because your new album's not out yet.
Nope, album's not out.
Coming out?
In the fall of 2023.
All right, so it's coming out in the fall. So in the meantime, it's a self-titled album. That's why
I
couldn't remember the album. Oh my gosh. So go check out Hello June. There's the Hello June album, and there's some more stuff on Spotify. You're going to really dig it, y'all, I promise. But where else can they find you?
They can find me they can find me on Facebook, Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Spotify. I'm even on TikTok.
Oh, Oh wow. I'm on TikTok. I've put some videos out there, but I can't. Like, it's one more social media.
I know. I'm doing my best. Like, I'm totally doing my best.
That's all we can ask for. We're just doing the best we can at this point.
Yeah, we're doing our best.
Awesome. Well, all of those links are going to be down below. So listeners, make sure you click, or watchers, you can click in the description below. You can see all of those things. Go find and follow and subscribe and all those other things. And remember, while you're at it, to follow, subscribe this podcast, leave a review somewhere, wherever it is you listen to it. That really helps. Rate the podcast. Give a thumbs up. I mean, you can give a thumbs down on YouTube if you want to. YouTube thinks that's interaction anyway, so it doesn't matter. They're going to feed it they're going to actually probably feed it to you more because you thumb down it. So that's awesome. It's weird. YouTube algorithms are awkward. So in the meantime, that's it for this main episode. We're going to catch you patrons on the next episode, and otherwise, I'll see y'all next week. And in the meantime, be good to yourselves, be kind to each other, and make some noise.